I'm Deanna.
And I'm Wendy, and this is LeftTube Watch. And today we're really pleased to have with us Miss Angie Speaks.
Hi, thanks for inviting me.
No problem. We're really, really happy to have you. And today we wanted to talk with Angie a bit about new creators and advice you might have for some of them.
Awesome.
Your channel's really, really growing, so we think it's really great to have your perspective on all of this.
Thank you. I'm really excited to share some of my little insights here and there.
Yeah. So, you don't mind me, so let's start off, like, when did you get started and what prompted you to start making YouTube content?
Thanks. I started, like, almost a year now. My channel started May of last year, so it's still kind of a baby, I guess. Yeah, I've been around for long enough to kind of have a basic hang on things. The thing that prompted me to start was just kind of being generally annoyed with what I was seeing, and kind of, you know, generally annoyed at some of the blank spots that have been left on LeftTube, especially when it comes to speaking to the more subjective needs, you know, and cultural needs of people. So I decided that I was going to sort of fill that space. And I think that's like a major, I guess, first piece of advice is if you see a hole, then fill it.
Yeah, my favorite one that you did was probably rape culture.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, like it made me go back to like my hipster age. Like, I was born in the wrong generation. Why can't I go and dance with Dionysus and have drugs or whatever?
I really love the one that you did about celebrities being the modern gods and goddesses.
Oh yeah, thank you so much. That was my first YouTube video, actually.
Well, it was a great start to it because it's very, very true. And although I do think, like, one of the things that was interesting was, like, you know, we tear down celebrities a lot quicker, but gods and goddesses go in and out of style, things like that. And I thought that was it's just a very interesting look at how we treat things today.
Oh yeah, and ironically, one of the big talking points on LeftTube at the moment has been like the culture of celebrity and fan culture and stan culture. So I almost feel like I was anticipating something, or like had some kind of prescient vision by making that video and kind of talking about the weird dynamic between fans and creators. And I recently rewatched it after a year of not seeing it, and it was pretty spooky, pretty spooky stuff.
Yeah, especially right now, what we're seeing with like the PewDiePie situation. Like,
yeah.
Like last time when he accidentally recommended a Holocaust denier, I posted about it, and I posted this really sarcastic post about how, like, on Tumblr, about how, does anybody want to tell me again why PewDiePie is so unfairly maligned? Like, I offer now is the time for you to do that. And I was being very sarcastic, but the PewDiePie fans went nuts, and it's almost like a cult around him right now.
It's just a joke. It's just a joke,
PewDiePie fans.
It's just a joke. We're being ironic.
That shooter who killed 50 people was only trolling.
Pizza Coffin has some really good commentary around this whole situation.
Yes.
Cultivated identity, all of those things play a huge role in the reason why these sort of things occur in our society. And yeah, I definitely highly recommend like watching his channel or buying his book to any of you out there who want some sound analysis.
Yes. He really does do great things. Like the cultivated identity thing completely blew my mind as a person who's operated in fan spaces for a long time.
Yeah. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Apparently he doesn't care, though.
He says that he doesn't, but it's still nice to, like, not be a dickhead about it.
No, I don't.
You said you started in May. How long did it take you to make that celebrity culture video?
I think it was like a week and a bit. Well, it took me like a week to write the script and get it to a good place. And originally it wasn't supposed to be seen by anyone because I was having trouble, just like anyone else, like starting and getting the motivation to start. So I kind of made this rule for myself, and it's a rule that I heard from someone on YouTube, I forget who it was. It may have been Kellyanne Maddox, because she tends to give really good advice around creativity and, you know, those sorts of things. But basically it was, if you're struggling with some kind of creative vocation, like, make something just for yourself, something that that you know in your mind that no one else is supposed to see. And then after a while, come back and watch it, and then you'll be like, oh, this isn't that bad. Actually, I'm pretty good. I should probably make more of this. So I kind of did that with that video. I made it just for myself. You know, did everything, wrote it, edited it, and then left it for like a month, and then came back and watched it. And I was like, okay, this isn't that bad. And it ended up being the first video I ever did on my channel. So I guess that's advice number 2. Is if you're struggling with the creative process, like, cut out the audience factor and like other people's gaze and all of that stuff, and just make something for you first, and don't bother thinking about sharing it, because you don't have to if you don't want to, and then leave it alone for a while and come back to it, and then you'll really see yourself shine through in a way that you may not have previously.
So when you're starting a new channel, like, what are some of the more difficult aspects of doing this? Like, some of the hurdles you may not have foreseen when you began.
Getting things set up is always the most difficult part, but once you get into the swing of things, it becomes a lot easier. Coming up with a channel name, you know, all the kind of infrastructural work that goes into making something. You know, creating the accounts, you know, securing the passwords, you know, linking your social media, basically doing all of the groundwork that to have like a channel, like creating a Twitter banner that looks good, or selecting a good profile picture, or creating a banner for your YouTube channel. You know, getting things up and running in that sense can, you know, take a while. It took me quite a few weeks to get things to a good place. And I guess my advice for that stuff is just start small and basic. Like, I started with a really basic banner that I just made myself. And the more you network in the community, the more people you know, the more people will be likely to offer you their services. Someone offered to make my logo. It was American Johnson, actually.
Oh.
And I paid him for it as well. Yeah, he was like, yeah, I do graphic design, like, I can help you, you know, design your channel logo and your banners and all of that. And yeah, we just kind of spent a couple weeks going back and forth, and he helped me out in that regard, because I don't have any expertise in that area. But my, I guess, advice is to just start simple, because the most important thing when you start is the videos. So even if you have a very basic kind of setup, don't let that deter you or like steal your focus, because these things kind of tend to come together on their own eventually anyway. So start basic. You know, the reason why, you know, my channel logo at the beginning of most of my videos is just like this simple Helvetica font with some, you know, colors, is like classic, simple, just there, no frills, but it still looks clean and sleek and professional. So I recommend kind of going with things like that, because those are the things that tend to kind of drain the most focus.
Okay.
All right. How familiar were you with leftist YouTube in your, like, I know there were some people already on the quote-unquote left, like Cat Black, Rowley, and Francesca Ramsey, and so many others. And I think others like you probably have started around the same time. I just wanted to know if you were familiar with, like, all of it before.
I mean, I just, like I said, like, I see people like Cat Black and Francesca as more of, like, you know, progressive YouTube. I wouldn't necessarily say they were left YouTube, even though they may actually be leftists. But I don't think they cover, like, actual leftist issues. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think they talk more about
they talk more about the progressive issue. So
yeah,
specifically on the left, I meant like the general United States, what we call the left in general. Okay. So that meant, yeah.
It confuses me a bit.
Yeah, sorry. The United States left, which is far more right than all of the other countries, pretty much. So.
Yeah, our Overton window is pretty.
Well, I started off on like left with like leftist creators, people like Libertarian Socialist Rants, you know, different anarchist channels, basically, Non-Compete, I guess Kevin Logan, Peter Coffin, I was watching ContraPoints as well. My boyfriend really enjoyed H Bomber Guy's video, so I would just kind of look over his shoulder when he was watching H Bomber Guy. Who else? Yeah, people like that. Like, I was kind of just like observing, and then I got really into LeftTube kind of through ContraPoints, when she was initially first making videos about, you know, making fun of reactionaries, and she had some really interesting, fun critiques of the left as well, which I thought were really cool. And I also thought that what she was doing was like really engaging, and a bit more engaging than some of the other stuff that I had been seeing. It was like kind of like funny and like fun, and I was like, oh my god, this is so cool, I want to do this, this is awesome. So yeah, I was watching, I was familiar, I was watching for a good 2-3 years. I was just a creepy lurker. But then I was like, hey, I think I may have some things to offer. So advice number 3, make sure that you're always coming from a point that's unique to you, because there's no other you on the planet. Nobody has lived your life or had your experience. So nobody's going to be able to bring what you uniquely have to say to the table. So the best place to start when thinking about how you're going to approach LeftTube is from your own experience, your own interests, your own attitudes, your beliefs. Bring what's authentically you to the table, basically.
So, so for someone who might be turning to the left and want to make content about it, what texts would you recommend for them, aside from like creators and works you might want to start with, like what, maybe like books or documentaries or different figures you might want to look at outside of YouTube?
I think it may be a little bit time consuming to go through all that, but I do recommend Audible Anarchist to everybody, which is a YouTube channel that does audio versions of different anarchist essays, and different sort of works of leftist literature that are very useful for everyone, especially if you don't have time to really sit down and like read. They make really wonderful audio essays, audio zines, audio books. So that's a plethora of resources there that can then point you towards other things. And then also my other piece of advice to that would be to like follow the breadcrumbs. So if you're watching videos and somebody mentions a piece of literature, don't just let that wash over you. Like, write it down and then go do some research. Or if someone mentions a concept that you want to know more about, take it into your own hands and go and research it yourself, because it will lead you down a really fun and fascinating rabbit hole. That's how I tend to make videos, actually. It's really difficult for me to make a video if I'm not inspired by the subject that I'm covering, and there may be like a month or two where I'm just in a total creative drought and nothing's really inspiring me. I kind of feel like that right now, but hopefully I'll come out of it. But then someone will mention a phrase or a word or a figure from history or a creator, and then subconsciously it will light something on fire, and then I'll go and Google it, and then I'll find a book about it, and then I'll just be sucked down this rabbit hole of wonder. So that's kind of my advice to people, is like follow the breadcrumbs and like go where they lead you. Listen to your intuition. There's also a really shitty culture on LeftTube, I've noticed, of people like wanting to be spoon-fed certain things. People will like leave comments demanding that I create them personal reading lists and stuff, and I'm like, I don't have time for that. Like, you know, I have to work, I have to eat, I have to, you know, be a person. And I feel like a lot of people feel entitled to kind of having the information kind of put on a platter in front of them, when your Google ain't broke, you know? Like, yeah, Google is free. And also, even if a creator in a video doesn't go into a shit ton of detail about a certain subject, the mere fact that they've mentioned that subject and they've gotten you interested in it then gives you room to go and explore yourself. because there are also people who comment like, you should have gone into more detail about this, and I'm like, I have like a 20-minute window to make this fucking video, so I'm not going to be able to go into hyper detail about every little thing. But you also have the autonomy to go out and research and find out things on your own. And you may be able to find some amazing insights that I may have not even thought of, or, you know, bring something through your own experience that nobody else would have thought of. So yeah, that's kind of my advice on that.
This is similar to the people in the comments asking for like specific references and like where to go, what to do. Like, how important do you think it is to network and reach out to people for like advice and a boost and collaborations? Like, I know we talked about it earlier with like the left helping each other with a lot of stuff. I just wanted to go into detail about it.
Yeah, this was the question I was actually looking forward the most to answering, because it's the one area of like hidden, forbidden knowledge that people kind of... There are certain people that try to play their cards close to their chest. I don't do that. I will be honest about how it works. And the truth is, there are many different ways to network. Some are shitty and some are less shitty. So I guess I'll talk about the less shitty ways to network first. First of all, don't be a clout chaser, because people can smell that shit. You want to make sure that you're genuinely engaging with people's work. The way that I was able to cultivate relationships and friendships and get collaborations and this and that was through just genuinely engaging with people's work. Being there to leave comments, to give them insight, to, you know, because creators do like feedback. They do like it when people engage with their work. And, you know, a lot of people try to bypass that process and just be like, hey, I need you to do this for me. Hey, would you be interested in this and this and that? And it can be quite abrasive, because it doesn't seem as if you're trying to meet them on a person-to-person basis. It's more just like, you're a means to an end for me. And people can smell that shit. So I guess my advice in kind of trying to network and cultivate relationships is just be genuine. You know, just be who you are. And also make sure that you're extending a hand of fellowship to the people that you're wanting to create relationships with, because that's what it's about. It's about cultivating relationships at the end of the day. You know, there are a lot of shitty ways that people try and do it. They spam, you know, by sending everyone a million DMs. Or they, you know, just don't even ask you how you're doing, how's your day. They just want you to engage with whatever it is that they're doing immediately. And these things tend to not get results. Most people tend to ignore those sorts of things. I know I do. The best way to reach and communicate with people is the way you would do in real life, by forming relationships. And the best way to do that is by genuinely engaging with people's work. Because if you do that and they start to notice you, then they're more likely to be like, okay, hey, what's that person doing? Let me see if I have time to engage with what they're doing. And it's also just about being realistic as well, and being respectful over people's time and resources. There are a lot of people who get irate when, you know, creators don't respond to them immediately or this or that. People are human, and not everybody's going to be able to meet your specific needs. That's your job. And, you know, the worst that somebody can do is not reply. And if they don't reply, that doesn't mean anything about you specifically. They could have been busy. They may not have had time. And if that's the case, then just move on. There are a lot of people who have a lot of insecurities and a lot of issues, and they feel personally slighted if they don't get what they want out of an interaction. And I think that that's really unhealthy. And that puts a lot of... Yeah, parasocial. Very parasocial. And it puts a lot of pressure on the dynamics. So, you know, I say be genuine, be chill. You know, once you've floated an idea out there once, just let it be. You don't need to constantly push. Like, there are people who have like, Angie, I made this video. And I'm like, okay, I don't really have time to get around to watching that today, but I will eventually. The next day they're like, Angie, I made this video. And I'm like, yo, it puts you off. It doesn't make you want to engage. And I would care to say to people, because I actually genuinely care about people being able to like have a platform and things like that. Just chill, just be chill. And if you send something to someone and they don't respond, move on. And if they don't respond within the time frame that you expect, they may do in a couple weeks and it'll be a nice surprise. But the only person that has control over your time is you, and that goes for everybody else too. So I guess be chill, don't clout chase, genuinely engage with people's work, and be respectful over their time and resources.
It's all about cultivating relationships. You can't spell calm without communism or communication, so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, when it comes to, you know, building a network of people, you know, remember that you're trying to actually genuinely make friends in a way, and as much as an internet friend can be. And if you're trying to make friends with someone in real life, you're not going to go and like beat them over the head with, this is about me, look at what I'm doing, because that doesn't tend to work. And the same principle plays out on the internet. If you want someone to engage with what you're doing, there are ways to go about that don't include being like really kind of obviously clout chasey about it. Yeah, and if you're getting, because there are a lot of people who are like, oh, I've been trying, but I've been getting ignored, and nobody's really paying attention to what I'm doing. And it's like, well, you need to look at your methods. If your methods are working against you, then it may mean that you need to reassess the way that you're communicating with people and the way that you are putting things out there, because you're not entitled to anybody's time. And you're not entitled to anybody caring about what you do. When I started with the full knowledge that there is a 90% chance that nobody is going to give a shit about what I'm doing or what I'm saying. I'm a black woman who talks about like spirituality and stuff. Like, I'm not the ideal leftist figure by any standards. So I didn't have any illusions about any sort of cultivated audience when I started. I just started thinking nobody's probably going to give a shit about this, and I think that's a healthy way to start, is to start with no expectations, because then the way that you interact with people will show that you're just kind of there to do what you need to do, and people tend to respond to that better than they do with somebody who has all these demands and expectations and you know, just ideas about things that may or may not come to pass.
So now I have to get into like probably the worst question, but do you mind if we go into finances a bit, like things like equipment cost, Patreon management, and upkeep and everything?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so like, how does that go? How do you go about that, basically, for somebody who wants to make videos or podcasts or whatever? Like, what kind of, because that costs money, like to get decent equipment and everything like that, and then there's the whole thing with Patreon, like you have to offer tiers, you have to offer perks, things like that, and how do you manage all of that?
So when I first, if you look at my channel when I first started, the production quality is very low. I didn't have access to any resources when I started at all. And I was using my iPhone camera to shoot the video. As of right now, I'm still using my iPhone camera to shoot the videos. I don't have a mic at the moment, but I'm working on changing that next month, which is pretty exciting that I'm now at the point where I can do that. But my whole point is message. If you have a video with a genuinely good message, if you have a video that's authentically your kind of voice, if you have a video that brings something new to the table, doesn't really matter about the production costs. People will forgive that, and if they don't, then they're fucking assholes. Think about it. One of the most popular left tubers is Sean, and he's just a skull image on a screen. There's not a whole bunch of high production value to what they do. So I don't think that when you first initially start, you should be hyper concerned with that. Even if all you have is a webcam, even if all you have is your phone, you can still make something engaging, and you can still make something that is authentically you. You can still fill a unique space. I had literally nothing except my phone when I started, and I was lucky enough to have access to some editing, to Premiere Pro. My boyfriend's work laptop has Premiere Pro on it, so I was using my iPhone and Premiere Pro. Those were the only two things that I had. If you don't have access to Premiere Pro, there's free editing software that you can download online to use. I know a lot of people who use free editing software. It's perfectly good to get basic cuts, to add images or video footage. So I would recommend that. And everybody's phone has a camera, so you just start there. The most important thing is the actual substance of what you're saying. And if you're able to put what you're saying across in an engaging way, that makes people look at a new area of something, or you're filling some kind of void, then you're likely to be paid attention to in that regard. There are some people on leftist YouTube who are complete assholes about equipment and lighting and your editing, and they kind of critique you in that sense, but just ignore those people. I had to, because I remember when I first started, there were people like, oh, your lighting's weird, oh, your sound is weird. I'm like, well, then donate to my fucking Patreon then. Like, excuse me, I don't have any fucking money, so you gotta make do with what I give you. Yeah, don't worry about that shit. Ignore those people. It all comes from you, it all stems from you, and as long as you're comfortable with what you're doing, it doesn't matter what anybody says at the end of the day. As for Patreon, I'm still figuring that shit out myself, because I'm still a fairly new creator, and my Patreon has grown significantly, which I'm very, very grateful for. And I have a private Discord for my Patreons, which is a good perk to offer, especially when you're just first starting out. And then I also offer free tarot readings to Patreons as well. That's a little skill that I have in my back pocket, and it's something that I give as a gift. So if you're somebody who's artistically talented, or you have some sort of little skill that doesn't take too much time or labor, then those are the sorts of things that you can offer as perks. I would say avoid parasocial tier rewards, because there are some people who do things like, I'll call you, or you can Skype with me. Yeah, I would say avoid those kinds of things and just kind of keep it simple, because you're already putting a shit ton of labor into making, researching, editing, these videos. You don't want to then add more intense labor by filling your tier rewards with all these promises that you may have difficulty fulfilling when you grow. And my YouTube, like I said, my Patreon has grown significantly, so I found myself having to restructure my tier rewards and things like that, and I'm still kind of getting into the hang of managing it. I'm not perfect at all, but my Patreons are really cool, and they forgive me when I fuck up or I forget things, or they'll kind of gently remind me when I forget to do things and things like that. So I'm terrible with administration. I suck with admin. So if you're somebody who's blessed enough to have an eye for administration, and that will definitely come in handy for you.
Nice. So what do you like best about being a creator on YouTube? What's the best parts?
The best part of it is getting to be creative. So I've always loved writing. I've always loved making little short film. I went to film school, so I'm like an ideas person. I love to explore ideas. I love to then manifest those ideas creatively as well through some sort of thing. So the entire creative process for me is incredibly fulfilling. I love it. I love it. And then I also love, in some respects, engaging with the community. That is also really elating to just have people really engage with your work, even though there's a dark side to that as well. And then the other part of it is also making friends as well has been a really like great part of it for me, like, you know, cultivating friendships with people who I wish lived locally to me, because the great thing about the internet is you can always find people who have similar interests to you and who are basically you, but just living somewhere else in the world. So it's like been really fulfilling to find like some tribe members, I guess. Yeah, in that regard, that's been a pretty nice aspect of it. So yeah, those are the things that I like best about it.
So what do you think someone can do to avoid becoming too derivative of another creator?
Really getting in touch with your authentic voice. And there are loads of ways to do this. Practice is one massive aspect of it. Practice for me, and also spirituality helped me too, kind of getting in touch with like, what is uniquely me? There are loads of ways to do it. I can only speak from my own experience, and obviously my spiritual paradigm helped me with that. Like, I started kind of thinking about like my zodiac symbol.
Oh wait, what's your zodiac symbol?
So I'm an Aquarius.
Ah!
So yeah.
Deanna's very pleased to hear this because she is in love with astrology.
Oh, really? Awesome. I'm actually just learning, because like, I used to just like dismiss it. I was like, oh my god, astrology, like whatever. But I'm like, listen, I fucking read tarot. Like, I have no excuse. Like, I should be knees deep in this shit. So I'm starting to learn. But it's like such a great tool for figuring out where you belong in the course of nature. So once you realize your place in nature, your place in the universe, you can then be unapologetically like yourself. So I started thinking about the 4 elements and what the 4 elements like represent, and which one of the 4 elements that I resonate the most with, basically. And some people don't resonate with the element that's associated with their zodiac sign. Some people do. But I was like exploring all the different 4 elements, and I was kind of confused, like which one is me, blah, blah, blah. But then I came back to looking at like Aquarius, which is an air sign. And then I was like, okay, I gotta look at air, because that was the one that I ignored the most. And it turns out that like I'm definitely an air person. And symbolically, spiritually, air represents the domain of the mind, the domain of communication. And I was like, yeah, that's me. Like,
I mean, give me all of your information, and I can just go like hit up astro.com and like look up like your dominant planets and elements as well.
Oh yeah, I got my birth chart done on my birthday, which it was in February. And I am a Sagittarius moon, which makes a lot of sense. Which is why I am a very disorganized person. I don't. My sun sign is Aquarius. I'm just like an air person. Like everything is air. And then in tarot, the suit of swords, which represents air, is also me as well. Like anything to do with like the intellect, the mind, communicating ideas. That's where I live. That's like where I belong. And like figuring that out about myself really helped me kind of like delve fully into what I'm doing, just like completely unapologetically. You know, there are some people who are water people who, you know, exist within the realm of emotion and feeling and intuition, and that's something I'm trying to cultivate in myself. But like air is where I live. That was what I was born to do. That was where I was born to be. There are fire people, the ambitious people, the people with the passion. And, you know, then there are earth people, you know, the people who are firmly rooted, the people who are really good with affairs of the home, affairs of health, anything to do with like the earthly domain of like life or whatever, business, all of those things. Those are earth people. But I'm an air person, and part of the great thing about being an air person is the communication, the intellect, the mind. But the shadow side of that, the bad side of that, is that I'm like really in la la land a lot of the time, and I have a lot of trouble dealing with earth things. So practical things are the things that I have the most trouble with. So I feel like this system of kind of thinking about things really did help me to like get my YouTube channel off the ground, because it was just after the time when I got fired from my job. So my earth domain was falling to shit at the time. And I started to really realize that I'm a swords person. I'm a creative, intellectual, communicative human being. But we live in a capitalist society that doesn't really reward those talents or attributes. So I was like, I need to figure out a way to make this work for me, make my gifts work for me, make these sort of airy-fairy gifts I have yield real earthly results, monetarily, in terms of stability, in terms of like being able to like live a life as well as like pursue my highest aspirations / good. So now I'm at the point, I mean, it's ironic because today's the spring solstice. Yeah, I'm at the point now where I've managed to make those talents that I have from being an air person manifest themselves into real world somewhat stability, which is a really great gift. And now that the spring equinox is here, like I can really celebrate that and like reflect on that. So I guess my advice to the spiritual peeps out there is to look at what your elemental affiliation is. Are you a swords person like me? Are you an air person? Sorry, are you an air person like me? Are you a fire person, a water person? You know, are you an earth person? And then figure out a way to make that work for you. Like, because the world we live in doesn't really reward these sorts of spiritual gifts, but you have to find a way of carving out space for yourself. If any of that makes any sense at all, and I'm not just like chatting shit.
No, you're perfectly fine. Like, I am a fire sign, so I have like all of this ambition and passion, but not towards like what capitalism tells me to go towards, like I guess business and finance. And to be like really technical about it, like my whole entire, most of my planets are in the 8th house. So that deals with like a lot of occult stuff, and so how can I capitalize off of this occult stuff when capitalism says that I can't? So I find ways to do it and have fun with it.
And even then, it's not always about like making a job out of it. It's just about making room for it in your life, making room for your authentic self-expression to come forward. And, you know, not everybody is lucky enough to have YouTube be their full-time job. Like, I still have to work to be able to make ends meet. But at the same time, I now have a big space for my spiritual gifts to manifest themselves in my life. And that's what you want to do, is you want to create space for these things to manifest yourself. So you're a fire sign. You need to try your best to try and cultivate some space in your life for these things, for you to burn bright, basically, for you to burn as bright as you possibly can.
Air signs for the win.
Are you an air sign as well?
I'm a Gemini. I'm a Gemini.
Yay. High five, fellow air signs. So see, you're already fulfilling your air potential with this podcast.
I hope so.
I told her.
Yeah. You're filling your air potential with this podcast, which is a thing. And the more you give room in your life for you to fulfill your spiritual potential, the more happier you just generally are as a person. Like, I look at myself last year where I was like completely directionless, and now I can like look at the beginning point of the year at the spring solstice and say, fuck, like I'm doing all right, because I've forced myself to make room for who I truly am. And unfortunately, a lot of people can't or won't, for some reason or another, really make that room for themselves to be authentically who they are. And our society doesn't really allow that either. So I guess that's my advice, is like find out, a good way to find out who you are is to look at your elemental affiliation. It won't always be associated with your zodiac sign. Some people just don't resonate with their zodiac sign. It may be something you find out familially or ancestrally. It could be just something you have an affinity for. Like, some people just really love water. Some people really love fire. Some people are like very nature, like whatever you have the most affinity for is usually what it is. But for me, it was the opposite. I don't have a ton of affinity for air, but I then looked at it and I was like, okay, yeah, this makes the most sense for me. Yeah, I guess that was my journey to starting the channel. It was a spiritual journey.
So, first of all, we have to say thank you for coming on and talking to us about this. Did you want to plug your Patreon?
Thanks. I mean, I kind of feel guilty doing that because, like I said, recently my Patreon has grown significantly. So you can find me if you wish to, but I'll plug a couple of other people if that's okay.
That's fine. Go for it.
American Johnson, go support American Johnson non-compete. Luna Oy as well, I'm pretty sure she has a Patreon, so go support them. Cheerio Crumbles, Jack Saint, I know has been going through some immigration issues at the moment. You know, there are lots of smaller creators out there that could use the Patreon money, so I would suggest
we're starting our own Patreon too.
Yeah, if you guys, I wholly endorse that as well. If you want to support this podcast, go right ahead and do that. Yeah, share the clout, share the love, and good luck to everybody out there who decides that you want to create a channel. May spirit be with you, and I wish you all the best successes.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
So that was pretty amazing. We're really, once again, we want to thank Angie for being here. But also we have some time left, and we wanted to talk about a couple of events that have been happening, particularly in regards to the New Zealand shooting and some of the ways that YouTube has responded to it.
They have not
done well, except for on the left. And we wanted to talk about a couple of videos from prominent LeftTube creators. First of all, Peter Coffin's video on the New Zealand shooting in PewDiePie, and we'll link it in the description. Where he talked about mostly being angry at this violence, and like the way that people have been, how this is becoming almost normalized, and like the way people have been picking up these things and how it keeps happening, and like we're trying to keep things like this from happening, but this is like a crime based in hate, you know?
Yeah, the thing is, when it comes to these hate crimes, a lot of people realize that it's a hate crime when it's too late. So basically, based on the overturn window, I'm talking, let's say, specifically within America, when it comes to racism and bigotry, they paint the racism and bigotry happening directly and it being violent. They don't really see the things that come before. They don't realize the propaganda. They don't realize the jokes or even the microaggressions that happen. Like, cause
they just try to pass. Oh, it's just a joke. You're overreacting. But it's these things actually radicalize people. In fact, there's a Holocaust denier on YouTube who has straight up said that he uses the jokes and everything and the memes and everything to red pill people against the Jews. So this is not just some willy-nilly thing.
Yeah, and then people ask how they can stop this, and a lot of us who are marginalized keep saying stop making those jokes because it ends up as this. You need to take it at the root. But a lot of people don't realize that that root of microaggressions, those jokes, and those red pilling flowers into actually people dying. And I don't know how LeftTube is trying to help by making that connection and to de-radicalize people in general. Like, but the media does not really try to make that connection from jokes being propaganda or free speech being propaganda to that violence.
And this is like, we understand like it's not like we're saying, oh, we should ban all this and this. I'm just saying it's more like a factor of like platforming, and also just like maybe just people being fucking decent. Like,
Please?
people want to claim that, like, when we talk about these microaggressions, oh, you're just trying to silence people and destroy free speech. No, we're just criticizing what you say. We're using our free speech in response to your free speech. And unfortunately, a lot of people use their free speech to try to radicalize people through the guise of jokes or, oh, I'm just being edgy or something like that. Like, but until finally we have a thing where a guy's shouting a bunch of memes as he's killing 50 people in a mosque, like in New Zealand, and it's too late. Or there's a guy shooting up and kills a dozen people in a synagogue in Philadelphia. Like, this shit keeps happening, and people want to pretend that people aren't being radicalized by it.
Yeah, it's just very unfortunate. Like, I don't know what else to say on this other than people have to realize that words are violence as well, not just the direct hitting. Like I keep repeating, you have to stop it at the root. And I keep repeating, people don't realize that the root is actually those words and those jokes. Like, and again, luckily, the rise of LevTube is helping that out a little bit with specifically Peter Coffin and ContraPoints.
Yeah, exactly. And like the other thing is, I just want to say like really quick, like people think pulling out at the root, that means don't say the N-word and that's it. Like, or something like that. And I'm like, no, it's way more than that. And you're trying to pretend it's not more than that. And that's one of the things ContraPoints has gotten at with her last couple of videos, like the R Traps Gay video that she did. And when she talks about like, yeah, this does actually become violence and here's why. And her last video, The Darkness, where she talks about Ricky Gervais's trans jokes. And she's like, it's not that it's a joke about transgender people. I invented joking about transgender people on the internet. But like, he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, so it's not a good joke. You know? And then people just, we notice whose free speech you're rushing to defend, and we see what you guys are doing. Like, you don't really care about certain people. Like when Big Joel got his video mass flagged and taken down. Oh no, not a big deal. But like, no, Ricky Gervais should not be criticized in the name of free speech. We have to shut down criticism, and it's just bullshit.
Yeah, it also goes back into a lot of, like, what you said with free speech and how, like, the right, or even the liberals try to, like, muddy or muddle the information in that our free speech is just our opinion and not a fact, and people are subject to their opinions and facts, therefore they go to that middle ground of nobody is right, so they can keep on doing what they're doing, and that is basically being bigoted and racist. And yeah, continue to be dog whistling. And people have to realize that people deserve better than that, than just having unclear information. Not just unclear for information, but just having it unclear to know whether it's okay to be bigoted or racist. It's not. I mean, that's...
Yeah, well, but what about race realism or blah, blah, blah? Like, this stuff builds, and, like, people have literally said, like, full-blown white supremacists have said that they use jokes to try and red pill people, and and people don't want to stand up and pay attention until it becomes full-blown violence, and even then they only pay attention for a short while, and it's absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's because again, people have like short attention spans. I know, like right after, like on Twitter, like right after the stuff happened, people looked to I think Shane Dawson doing something, and it immediately went away after that. And also, it goes into Peter Coffin's video about people being performative when it comes to their condolences.
Thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, thoughts and prayers. Ooh, look at what Shane Dawson is doing to his cat now.
Exactly. And it's not just a factor of being sad. I think he's talking about like how this makes him angry, and I think it's better to be angry than to be sad at this point, because this is becoming almost a norm with all these freaking shootings. And it just keeps happening and happening and happening, and we aren't calling what it is, which is terrorism.
Oh yeah, people have become, like, I've been on chats where people have said that they've become hopeless and depressed, and like, yes, I am too, but I don't want to fall into that depression. I actually want to go and do something about it rather than just being depressed about it. Like, even if it seems hopeless, like, I at least want to try and do something to keep it from happening over and over.
Exactly. It's what's so frustrating about it is that it keeps happening, and like, people think, oh, I'm just listening to some edgy people, I'm just listening to both sides, but people get radicalized by that rhetoric, and people don't realize certain things are definitely, the Great Replacement is a dog whistle. Cultural Marxism is a dog whistle. These are just, they're all freaking dog whistles, and they people don't want to recognize that. It's like when you say our trap's gay, you're treating femininity as, it's not just transphobic, it's misogynistic, it's transmisogynistic. Like, you're treating it like, not only there's so much packed in there that like femininity is deceptive, and that it's wrong to be gay, and that women, like trans women, really aren't women. Like, it's all of that, and it matters when people keep perpetuating that bullshit.
Like, I can pull up, like, yeah, I've been in the rotting hole of 4chan, and I can pull up exactly how they use the dog whistles now. They say, this is one of the posts, the phrase "subscribe to PewDiePie" is perhaps the greatest dog whistle of all time. Something so benign and trivial always allows for the perfect plausible deniability. Positive and neutral comments on social media can end up with "subscribe to PewDiePie" to infer a much more politically incorrect tone to people who are in the know. When a leftist calls you out for using it, you can feign ignorance and claim that you are simply there to enjoy his content. It's brilliant. That's the quote.
Yeah. And, well, it goes back to what this, like, one policymaker for, I'm not going to say, the Republican Party once said, like, it used to be you could say the N-word, but then, like, the 60s come, you can't say that anymore. So now you got to talk about states' rights and tax cuts and everything like that. And you just keep moving like, oh, and we have to talk about race in this way and that way. And it's like, we know you're coding your language, guys. We can see what you're doing. And I think that's one of the things that, like, LeftTube is doing really well, is that it's decrypting this stuff. And I really do recommend people actually look at what the left are saying, like really good LeftTubers, and not just, you know, stop with your, oh, blue-haired feminist, blah, blah, blah. Like, listen to what the origin of a lot of these things are. You know, just...
Oh, what you were talking about was, I'm looking at it right now, it's called the Southern Strategy. This was back in, Reagan's party. The dog whistles that they created was specifically to divide the working class, like, by race and gender, like what you were saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Just wanted to cite that.
Yes, and yeah, so basically you have that whole thing. You have the Jewish question. I'm just asking questions, you know? Like, you have, well, you know, blacks and crime, or blah, blah, or urban, like Trump in one of the debates when he was just asked, like, how are you going to try to be a president for all people? He just suddenly starts talking about the inner cities. It's fucking dog whistling.
Yeah, he's back in that camp. I forgot what American Johnson called it, like, as, like, not like a fascist, but like around the crypto fascists. So, like, another example is when that guy in America went and shut up the Planned Parenthood, and people looked to Fox News because they were specifically saying that Planned Parenthood was selling baby parts, and that was what the gunman...
Well, look at Pizzagate.
Yeah.
And then Pizzagate.
Yeah, that's what the gunman was shouting at the Planned Parenthood, no baby parts. And Fox News had to find a way to, you know, cover that up with whatever they were saying as well.
Well, yeah, you had, I remember, there was this, I went to a Catholic school, okay? And that's why I'm so Jewish today. And I remember we were taught like so much about abortion. Like we had this one teacher who was really obsessed with it, and we spent half a semester on just talking about abortion. And there was they made this particular, like almost like this sort of grandmaster abortionist, George Tiller, and they called him Tiller the baby killer. And there was a bunch of things on Fox News where they claimed that, well, he's covering up the rape of 10-year-old girls and blah blah blah. And eventually, like, George Tiller was assassinated. And that wasn't the first time somebody had made an attempt on his life. Someone had, like, he had to have police protection and FBI protection throughout various times in his life. And this happens because you guys are telling people that these people are selling baby parts or letting the rape of 10-year-old girls happen or some shit like that. And it's just absolutely terrifying because we hear you and we know what this leads to. Like, you know, you think that when Europeans first went like into Africa to start their slave trade, they just started out with just saying like, oh, well, we're just gonna have slaves. No, they used race realism to try to justify it.
They measured people's skulls and brows to see who was the more intelligent, to justify colonialism and slavery and so much more.
And in the lead up to the Holocaust, it started out with, let's try to get the Jews out of Germany. And they're just so money hungry. And that comes from like a long, long period of, if you don't mind me going into a little bit of history here.
You're good.
Like, so the Christian Bible bans usury, which is money lending with interest. But you kind of need that for an economy to work. So with the exception of the Knights Templar who got a papal dispensation, they got Jews to do it. And Jews were barred for basically every other trade. So because of that, like, yeah, Jews had to become moneylenders. And that's where we were basically forced into this profession. And then we got the stereotype of the money-hungry Jew, and this is carried on. And when, you know, Hitler first started taking power and everything, he just started off with a lot of, like, dog whistles and a lot of bullshit and a lot of falsehoods, like, there are no Jewish scientists or philosophers. Meanwhile, like, Albert Einstein and Emmy Noether and all these Jewish scientists are, like, right there. And it starts with words, guys. It starts with words. You know, it doesn't just it's not just suddenly boom, concentration camps and people in chains. It starts with words.
Yeah, the sticks and stones phrase doesn't really work in these contexts when it comes to genocide, guys. Just in general, like, again, you guys, or not you guys, but like the population in general just doesn't know what it means when it comes to the 8 stages of genocide at all, because it's just been like the words and everything has been so co-opted by just the right, to where you just see the direct physical violence and nothing else that built up to it when it's been there all along.
Like, I'm really worried about what's going to happen to Ilhan Omar. Like, you had Judge Janine, like, going, well, she wears a hijab. Does that mean she ascribes to Sharia law? And it's like, if she ascribed to, like, if she followed Sharia law, she wouldn't be a congresswoman. Like, she'd be barefoot and pregnant. Like, that... It's such bullshit. Like, all these fears and stoking these fears about Sharia law, or which is just a dog whistle for saying scary Muslims. And, like, don't get me wrong, there's some things that Ilhan Omar said that I found questionable. If, like, not that I think she's like a rabid anti-Semite or anything. Like, I want to make that very clear. But like, you know, there are some things where she's made some mistakes and everything. But, like, people claiming this shit and putting marginalized groups against each other and everything, which is like why I've always said that, like, I don't really care to be a prop in people's Islamophobia. And it just, like, we've had shootings at mosques. These people are in danger. Like, people are in danger right now. And it's not funny anymore. And sorry, but you can't just claim it's just a joke. We know better. And if you don't know better, you need to learn better. You need to see what, like, the consequences of some of these so-called jokes are, because they lead to this violence. And wouldn't you rather have the violence not happen? Like, I'm just so frustrated.
Yeah. And people who just don't know how to learn, like, thankfully now we have more access. I keep plugging LeftTube. They're doing the good work when it comes to specific things like these, like how to describe bigotry, how white supremacy, like how dominant males trying to be dominant works. Those are all pretty much ContraPoints videos that I pretty much plugged.
I'd also really suggest Sean's video debunking Lauren Southern's video on the Great Replacement, because he's going into that, you know, like the whole treating people as a swarm, treating refugees as a swarm, and like oddly enough, like it's just gotten to this point where it's not a joke anymore. They are saying these phrases very particularly. You know, like they're being careful with their words and their memes. And so, yeah, LeftTube is shedding a lot of light on that, and that's why I think it's so important that we started this podcast, because I want to talk about like the things LeftTube is doing and what's going well and what's going wrong, you know, things like that. It's not just a joke anymore, guys. People are getting shot.
I mean, it's never been a joke.
It's never been just a joke, and it's not like, and I'm not saying that you can't make like I'm not saying that we should ban all jokes about like sensitivities and stuff like that. I'm a huge fan of Mel Brooks. I want Jordan Peele to make a remake of Blazing Saddles so badly. But you know, just like that shit's funny. Like, there are ways to make jokes that are punching up, you know, like, and we're not saying that you can't ever make a joke about certain differences between certain cultural groups, but like, that's not what's happening here. Jokes about being an attack helicopter or Sharia law or whatever, like, just, or crappy, like, Ebonics accents and things like that. That's not funny. Like, that, first of all, it's not funny, and second of all, that is dangerous. And we're not saying it should be banned, but we're saying that maybe you should cover yourselves, because this is where it's going. You don't realize that sometimes you're getting faster and faster into certain things that you really, and then suddenly you end up someplace where you never expected.
Like, I'm taking from also Angie from Angie Speaks again. We have to do a lot of shadow work and look within ourselves to see what exactly that we're doing wrong, and why exactly are we angry at specific subjects, why are we getting upset, and just look within and try and answer that. So like within like a lot of, in general, with how capitalism is running rampant and rapidly right now, it takes a toll on a lot of people's mental health, and it confuses people, makes them realize that their life wasn't as good or wasn't nearly as good as it was or should be. And so a lot of people become politically confused. And
Peter Coffin talks about this quite a bit.
Yeah, unfortunately,
and
like the right, unfortunately, was faster than the left and directed people towards fascism and Nazism instead of looking towards the left, mainly because they're in control of the narrative more than, say, communism or socialism.
And it does start with words. Like, here's the thing, like, you take something like, I'm going to use Mel Brooks as an example. Like, yes, there's comedy you can do. And ContraPoints' last video, The Darkness, is all about this. But, like, Mel Brooks made jokes about the Nazis, like, only about 25 years after World War II. Or, well, actually 24 years, technically, but, and he got a lot of flack for it at the time. He made Blazing Saddles, which is one of the best, like, comedies about racism ever. And, like, that that is a movie that does feature a black man going, "Yo, where are all the white women at?" for a very specific purpose, and it's perfect. And it was just a giant mockery of racism, read the story, A Study in Black and White.
I'm sure
Dorothy
they
Parker.
made it specifically. I'm sure they were specific when they said this is a mockery to.
Yes, exactly.
You can't go and do things without saying this is specifically satire without, you have to say that it's satire before it turns back into that propaganda. Luckily
if you have to say that it's satire, your satire did not work.
Yeah.
Dorothy Parker, was a satirist, and she wrote a story called, it's either A Study of Black and White or A Matter of Black and White. Keep in mind, she left all her entire estate and the rights to all her works to Martin Luther King and the NAACP. And this is why I always get annoyed when people say, "Oh, they're from a different time." There actually were non-racists in older times. A woman in the 1930s was writing about a woman who couldn't get over the fact that there was a black man at a party she was at, and goes off on this rant and then starts spouting the N-word. And then finishes off with it doesn't matter at all that he's black. There's ways you can. We're not banning ethnic humor. Nobody's really banning anything, but we're saying that there is a way to do it, and this is not the way to do it because this is the way to violence.
Yeah, you're correct. Again, I keep repeating that I'm circling back, but I'm circling back to just words meaning violence. And again, even the whole satire thing has been cultivated by the right as well, where they can just say that it's satire and not really mention it at all.
But you have ContraPoints doing fake Nazi characters, and you can tell that's satire. Your satire is raw. Your satire is bad. Lindsay Ellis has a great video on this too, on Mel Brooks and the ethics of Nazi satire. Sorry, we're running out of time.
Did you want to finish it up?
Let's do that. So we're gonna, on that note, I think we're gonna sign off. But thank you for listening, everybody, and I once again thank you for Angie Speaks. Also, by the time this episode lands, we're gonna have a Patreon set up, so it's gonna be patreon.com/LeftTubeWatch. So please make sure that you check us out. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.